The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Are you ready to take a journey? Let's connect with the healers of the world. It's that time. It's time for the Language of Healing on W4WN Radio and Talk 4 TV. Now here's your host, Dr. Nicole Fortin.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of the Language of Healing. I'm your host, Nicole, and here's the amazing co-host, the Pipe Man. And hello. And we're just coming back after a great weekend at Welcome to Rockville, which is a big music festival, kind of new to me. Being such a big venue, there were a lot of people there and a lot of bands, and it was really busy. And I'm feeling very excited and a little bit tired.
And I have a surprise for my show tomorrow that even Rebel doesn't know about yet, having to do with Welcome to Rockville.
You got a hint for us, or is that
no
just
hint?
No
hint.
You'll have to tune in tomorrow.
Then Rebel might figure it out, So no hints.
Okay, well, tune in tomorrow. The Adventures of Pipe Man on W4CY at 1 p.m. Eastern, right? Wednesdays.
That's right. But it's all about you, Nicole, and because we need some healing after Welcome to Rockville. I know I do.
I know this is my circus now, right? Yes. Well, I caught your show last week actually around music as therapy and as medicine, and this month is around there's a lot of talk around the mental health awareness, and I noticed that theme in the concert and the festival, and a lot of artists would take a moment to thank their fans, reach out and say if anyone's in a rough place, that I've been there too, and we were talking about this last time, that music is like soul medicine. It comes from the soul, and the lyrics and the riffs and the beats and the dancing, and I love all about it. So it's a very healing experience. Now that was like the loud big bang boom, and the antidote or the balancer of that is maybe some quiet resting time, which I'm definitely feeling the need to. And I'm still in Florida. You got the beautiful ocean, and the ocean heals everything as well.
I believe that, unless you get bit by a shark, then maybe not.
That's the circle of life, I guess.
It's never happened to me though. But I brought it up because I was talking to people about that Welcome to Rockville, and there's people that won't go in the water because of the marine life and the fear of it. And my viewpoint is, it's their home, it's my backyard. I respect that and them, and they're really not. It's just like land. You have animals too. Let's all just coexist, and you don't bother them, they don't bother you, and we all just coexist.
Yeah, like the symbiotic relationships, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need each other, one in each other, and we have to coexist. That's it. There's a lot of different viewpoints out there. There's a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of different ways that people live their lives. When we talk about values and even things for self-care or healing has many different views and perspectives. And today's guest actually is going to be so great for this conversation for many reasons. Also knows Florida, so we can talk a little bit about the sharks and all that stuff too. The lizards. I've seen some lizards here. What else? It's kind of so Rockville was situated in the Daytona, the speedway, the race, the NASCAR racetrack. So it's concrete, I didn't feel like I got exposed to much of the surroundings.
Although there were plenty of creatures there.
Yeah, that's correct. Plenty of creatures. and beasts and beautiful people. I made lots of great friends.
And I think
Um,
Rebel needs some healing too.
yeah. What's going on, Rebel?
Well,
I really have no idea why he says that. He just likes to do that to me offhand. I have no idea why do I need healing, Pipe Man?
well, because everybody needs healing of some sort. Healing doesn't necessarily mean something has to be wrong. It just means that you continue being in a positive state and a high vibe and, living in high energy instead of low energy. And sometimes healing could be as simple as just having a better day, even if you're having a good day. It doesn't, people seem to think healing needs to mean that there's something wrong. It's no, I think healing is something you do every single day that you're on this earth here because we're constantly growing, evolving, and that to me, that is healing.
Mm, I would agree with that. Healing is the act of it's like a positive thing. Even if you have illness, it's your body showing you like this is the next step. That is the healing process. It's
Now,
showing
Rebel
you
does need
what's going on.
actual healing, but
Yeah.
that being said,
Maybe she needs to go to the next Pipe Man's Adventure Tour music festival.
she's been she's not had great experiences with the pipe man in that realm.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
She needs a lot of healing when she goes to one of those with me.
Okay. Was it a big one? I mean, 4 days is a long time.
Well, no, one of them was at a little venue, but yes, she does go. She has gone in the past to Louder Than Life, and
Mm.
you know, and then she gets a really good view with her media pass from the top of the hill of the parking outside the venue.
That was the most wonderful place to be to listen to that.
See, and I think that's
Uh-oh.
part of healing too. Like the people at the festival that stay outside the festival and don't enter the festival. There are people that go to festivals and they just hang out and party in the parking lot. Like
Oh, yeah.
I don't get that
Tailgate.
myself, but hey,
Tailgating. Tailgate parties.
but
Yeah.
we got a very
All right.
important
Yeah.
type of healing that Rebel needs to pay close attention to today, and so do all you listeners and viewers.
Hmm. Yes.
So let
Well, shall we?
let it roll, Nicole.
Let's bring him on. Okay, our very special guest. I'm very excited to have him with us today. It's Anthony Verzi, who's a longtime colleague, friend, mutual connection with we share a beautifully, wonderful mentor that has passed and yeah, so it's really nice to connect with
Which
Anthony. Is he with us?
Yeah, and let's bring him on. Before he starts talking, by the way, why don't you mention a little bit about what's going on in reference to that mentor? Maybe now would
Oh,
be a
with
good time to make some announcements about that.
Well, yes, there's some very exciting developments, actually very recent developments around the work, emotional wisdom training, and our mutual mentor, Kate Michaels, that we have an opportunity to bring it back to life here on W4CY, W4WN. I'm not sure. It's kind of it's an idea that we're playing with. And but Kate Michaels is a beautiful spirit, beautiful soul. I know that she's impacted all of our lives that are here on this channel right now. And
Even
yeah,
Rebel.
even Rebel. Yeah, everybody here has been impacted by this wonderful woman, and it's an honor to carry on her work or even be associated with her and have learnt from her. She had many great mentors and masters, and in the realm of neurolinguistic programming, Anthony might be able to share a little bit too more about around that, um, the Milton Erickson approach, and yeah, why don't you go ahead, just
So,
share a
I mean,
little.
Kate, obviously, I mean, I don't think I need to reiterate how much Kate truly impacted all of us. Like in just having those deep conversations with her was just so eye-opening and so easy. She made it so easy with the coaching in itself. And it's almost like the work was being done and we didn't even know it. And it's like later it would come out and we can actually use it. And it was just a magnificent process, the whole emotional wisdom, aka coaching in general.
Yeah, because you know when I would call Kate was I was in like desperado mode. Okay, that's what I call. It's like I have an urgent problem. Like I need healing now. I need to resolve this issue now, or else I'm gonna drive myself crazy. I'm gonna say something stupid. Like this is kind of my, my loop or my spin. And she would be so good at telling me just stop. Like she had no problem just stop. And then so that in that's a good example of what healing is when you're in it and you're moving through it, and then you have someone to be a bit of a mirror, or you get it reflected a bit, and then you can retrain your patterns, because we're likely doing this over and over and over again, just out of habit. So um yeah,
Amen.
conversations with Kate weren't always easy. That's for sure. You're not going there because it's like my life is running amazing and I feel so good about myself and like things are smooth. Although that was also a great time to coach with her, because that's when you can really like, so that's again, you don't have to be sick to be healing. You can be healing as you're growing and expanding and learning. And that's
Exactly.
more
Exactly.
like prevention and the real golden ticket. Yeah.
One of the things I really loved about Kate is that no matter how like traumatic your experience was, you could tell her about it and she could laugh at it, which was so cool. Like she could actually laugh and then bring you into laughing at it, so you could actually take a more macro view of it and step outside of it, be more dissociate. I'm sorry, I can't hear, um, from the actual event. So that was, I mean, I used to tell her some deep things and she'd laugh at it. And I would be like, why is she laughing? And then I got it. I slowly got it. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. The more we're pliable with it, the more flexible it is, the more we can flow with it. And she's somebody that really showed me that beautiful process. And a lot of that was about taking a step back from it, disassociating from it, and seeing it from a non-agenda place, which is so crucial.
Yeah, I love that analogy she would use around being associated in and dissociated out. It's like if there's a difference between being on the roller coaster and feeling that and like going through the motions, versus stepping back and seeing the whole track, So there's not much, those two states are really useful when we're stuck and spinning. And so, yeah, Anthony, I know I really admire your work that you're doing, and I love your name, Infinite Light Wizardry.
I appreciate
Um,
that.
I just think it's like, so, there's a mystery in words and our thoughts and our beliefs.
Yes.
There's like the curiosity is the spark, So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you
Well,
got
I
into that and
I really think that
what you're
that's
doing?
a wizard kind of perspective. In fact, Kate used to talk about wizard concepts a lot, and she would be actually kind of touted as a wizard. And I also, never realized that while we were going through that process. And then later on, I would take other people through these processes just in my daily works, dealing with people or dealing with friends. And they would say something like, "You're a wizard." That's so that just came up recently, kind of with that name change. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I can resonate with that. And the whole process of making, um, not necessarily manipulating light, but working light to your favor, working the situation to your favor, molding it like a clay, being able to laugh at it so you can make it flexible. That's all part of the wizardry journey and wizardry mastery.
Yeah, because we can get so fixated on something, and to open it up a little bit and to add a little like sparkle, a little magic. I don't want to say that word lightly either, but it's like and she talked a lot about miracles, and that's how you make a miracle happen, is you give it, space and to evolve and be curious around it. Yeah. So
Yes.
that's some exciting news. We'll be talking much more about that. But today's conversation around, navigating, like, challenges with emotional wisdom, that was her entire, it's like the foundation of emotional wisdom training, because it's not like life is going to happen anyway. And what really matters is how you respond versus react to what is showing up in your life. And that's where you, like you said, Anthony, you can take advantage of these moments more readily and propel yourself into
Yeah.
more of a life
Yeah.
that you want to be living. Like, you're the traveling free spirit. I really dig that part of you, and I think that's why we connect to like like-minded adventurers, all of us here.
Yeah, definitely. And I know now, like more than ever, it kind of, I don't know how this is for you guys, but what I experience is that the more I try to control things, the more I just, like, the house just crumbles. And so there's like
Absolutely.
a certain aspect of getting to where you just say, oh, you know what? Just go with it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You got to laugh at it. This is it, and own it.
I always say that you can't control any of the situation, surroundings, other people, any variable. All you can do is control your attitude towards it.
Yes. I like that. I like that.
You know, there's a motivational speaker. He's actually, Tony Robbins talks about him in his seminars. His name is W. Mitchell. And everybody ought to look him up because what an amazing story he has. He's almost died twice. 90% of his body's burned, quadriplegic, and yet one of the most positive, empowering people there is. And one of his slogans is, "It's not what happens to you; it's what you do with it."
Mm-hmm.
Positively. Positively. I mean, and that's the big thing too about the whole neuro-linguistic process, and bringing in Milt Erickson coaching to it. We get to make the meaning. I mean, when it comes down to it, we get to make the meaning up. What does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Kate
something
always
that,
would ask that question. What does that mean to you? What does this
yeah,
word mean to you? And then,
yeah,
yeah, like,
So
and it's
important.
so, yeah, it's so important. I mean, that's everything. That's like the context, because, you could be listening to somebody, and maybe that's where a lot of miscommunication comes from, because depending on where you were brought up or what influences you had around you, like, it matters how you form that
Well, and
meaning.
you have to really kind of go into your mind while you're thinking things like just when we were prepping for the show today, I asked you a question and you said I don't know, and my answer was a Tony Robbins NLP answer, and it was, well, if you did know, what would it be? And people may think that's kind of silly, but that does cause your brain to like trigger to actually be able to know, because then you kind of think of it from a different aspect.
Yeah, because we're trying to answer from our, like, I think Kate always talked about this. The well, it's knowledge that you ask people something three times to really get the answer, right? Because the first
Hmm.
time it's like, it goes into the conscious realm, like, oh, what should I be saying? And then, like, the unconscious, oh, what do they want me to say? Or what do I think that they think that I want to be saying? And then it gets to the heart, or to the core of it. So yeah, the answer, Kate would always get me on that too. I don't know. You do know.
Right, because
Yeah.
we do
Yeah.
know, we may just not want to admit it to ourselves or to somebody else, but we do know,
Mhm.
and we may not even consciously know though. So there's the other side of it. So you got to dig deep, because there could be something deep in there that is why you're saying you don't know, because you don't want to expose what's dug down deep.
Mm. Yeah, then
yeah,
you have
that's
to
huge.
confront it. Yeah. And then once you confront it, you kind of have to change. You have to, like, consciously check out or change. And that's a decision or a choice that a lot of us, some things aren't easy. So it's easy to just sweep it under the rug.
I say most things aren't easy. They're simple, not easy. And people confuse those two words. You can have a simple formula for something or a simple answer, but it doesn't mean it's the easy answer. It doesn't mean it's the easy way, the easy formula. You know, I mean, even as an example, in school, let's say you take a statistics class, there could be some simple question, but you have to do 5 pages of work to get to the answer, and it's not very easy. Or sometimes you just have to go to a simple answer. Like, you'll love this. One of the best things I ever experienced in college was a philosophy class. In the final exam, you had 3 hours to write a paper, and the question, the essay question was why? And there was one girl that walked out of the class in like 10 seconds. And we're all looking like, what the hell is she doing? She got the best grade in the class. I'm bringing this up because we do that to ourselves too. Sometimes we overcomplicate things, overwhelm things ourselves. And so she didn't do that. Her answer was, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like the process too of like you were saying, Nicole, on the asking multiple times, because this is obvious in everybody's daily occurrence. Just ask a person that you're just talking to, you know, maybe walking on the street, how they're doing. They're going to give you the most surface answer that you can
Mm-hmm.
think of, right? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We're all doing good. You take it to the next level. What makes it so good? Then you're diving in a little further. And then you take it a little further. You're diving even deeper, and then you get to some real stuff, and that's where magic happens.
Absolutely. And I think that also has to do with when you're asking the question more than once. It's like we were talking about before. It's sometimes when you ask the question in a different way, people come up with a different answer, or maybe their mood changes, or whatever it is. There could be some kind of energy there, or there could be a multitude of things. But every time you ask them, it causes them to think more, which may gravitate to grabbing another answer.
Definitely.
Well, we have so many layers, and there's a lot of, even if you think about all the masks we put on and how we can just habituate. It's like that's just what I do, and you don't even realize it then because when you do something enough times, it becomes like uh, unconsciously competent. Like you're not even thinking about it. You're doing it so automatically. It's like a very well, deeply entrenched pathway that you're choosing every time. So, we talk in NLP and, when we're retraining like the neural pathways, you have to forge a new pathway. So it's like you're being a pioneer of yourself. And I love that as we're all adventurers here. The quest inside is quite a journey and a worthwhile venture, I believe. And yeah, the language that we use is really, beneficial and supportive in that quest. I love that too,
And
Um,
building up those layers. I mean, you have layer on top of layer on top of layer. It takes somebody who's going to broad onto those layers and keep asking those questions and being
mm,
in acceptance. And that's kind of the antithesis of a coach.
yeah. So when you're working with people, Anthony, like take us through some of your processes. Like what have you, what happens when we step into the realm of the infinite light wizardry?
Well, a couple things happen. I mean, first of all, this is not for the faint of heart. Learning these things, you are really diving into somebody's subconscious. And when you go into somebody's subconscious, it becomes personable. So there's certain things that you have to loop and tie closed. So if you're going into somebody's subconscious, you're in a responsible position because you're kind of getting this VIP access, right? Now you can work. In fact, in my own life, I do this kind of habitually. So I got to be careful sometimes because sometimes I'll meet somebody within 5 minutes. They're telling me some really crucial information that later might become a position of judgment towards me because I opened up that box. So it is very, very powerful stuff. And really having the responsibility of knowing that and the information behind it, and making sure that you loop it and you keep it, I guess responsible would be the best way to put it, but in a healing fashion, and obviously giving solutions and you know going deeper in a good way.
What do you mean by loop it? Just heard you say that.
So let's just take, for example, say we open up a belief that somebody has. If we just go, okay, somebody's, they got this negative pattern in their life that they wanna quit. Your brain is making these loops. It's going through these patterns, and it's basically playing out the same thought or the pattern over and over and over again. When you dive into that, you basically open up that loop, and we got to put something else in or go in a different direction. So for instance, taking something like the repeat and complete process, which is something Kate was really big on. That's opening up that loop. And in order to close that loop, you have to finalize that sentence. So for example, I don't want to do this because I feel lazy. Okay, well, that's looping all the time for somebody who might be, tend to be lazy, or somebody that might be apathetic. That's looping and going on all the time under the surface. So if we open that up, now we got to finish it, right? So you take the client through that process. I feel lazy because I get them to finish that process, because I am not doing enough. I am not doing enough because finishing that process is actually creating a solution and actually creating a way out of the actual pattern.
Yeah, and Kate was big on that solutions focused, that it's not like we're not revisiting everything, rehashing it. It's like we're finding a new way. Go
What
ahead,
I love
James.
about what you were saying is how it changes the focus from the problem to the solution.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love how okay, in my mind, solution is like spelled like SOUL, solution. And this just reminds me.
You
There's
know
like
what's
these old
funny?
what?
There's a show we've had on the network. It's on hiatus now. That's the name of the show, Solutions.
I mean, it's just beautiful. And I'm thinking of something that really inspires me is the Hawaiian practice of Ho'oponopono. And that stems from, well, it means to make things rightly right. So if there's any kind of, and it used to be a community practice. So if there was one problem between members or between one, the whole community would come together and they would sit with that until it was made rightly right, and it's like, so it was coming with solutions from like the soul, so it didn't have to have developed layers upon layers, and and we get so entrenched in like the web of that we build around it, like it's yeah, so the repeat and complete, it's like a cleansing, it's like cleaning, clean, 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 back, where does that, like, oh, where did that come from? Isn't that interesting? When did I start believing that? There's a lot of things to sweep up and out. And
I love that you mentioned Ho'oponopono too. That's so funny. I was going to say something about that before. That's such a beautiful process, and that's something that everyone can do and everyone has access to. Did you want to say exactly
do you want
what
to
the
say?
prayer was?
Go
So
ahead.
the Ho'oponopono prayer is actually, it's an old Hawaiian prayer, and it was actually used to basically heal an entire group of people without even being in their presence, just by looking at their file. The story behind it is pretty unique, but it's basically 4 simple words, 4 simple phrases. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you, and I thank you. So 4 simple phrases are actually deeply healing in those old traumatic patterns that are in our cellular nature, debris wise.
Yeah, and I imagine just like erasing it. It's like that's also part of it. It's like clean, 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 always like every day, clean the palette, so it's like the energies can go, can rest, and you can be fresh.
Well, like
Yeah.
even a good example of that is if you go to a fine restaurant, what do? In between each course, they bring something out to clean your palate because otherwise you can't fully experience the next course and you won't have the full feeling, taste, and just, you know, everything that goes along with it. And I think that holds true for everything in life.
Yeah, Ho'oponopono is a shot of ginger for the next round.
And there you go.
How about the sniff of coffee beans? Is that is that the palate? Is that a palate cleanser too? Or
should be. If it's not, it definitely should be.
I like when you go to an Asian restaurant and they give you sherbet, like dessert dessert between every course. I'm there, man. I don't even need the courses. Just keep bringing the dessert.
Okay, where is that? I've never been to that. I've never seen such a thing.
Yeah, if you go to like a high line, like Asian restaurant, like in New York, that's what they do. They, and they do that a lot in Europe too.
Okay. See, okay, those are two places I have not really been and traveled much to yet, so I'm adding that on the list.
There you go.
Fine dining in New York and Europe.
There it is.
Good stuff.
Big dreams. Yeah, let's make it happen. Okay, yeah.
Speaking of traveling, where's the next place that you're going, Nicole?
Okay, well, you know what? It is an adventure. It's close. It's pretty local to me. I'm going to the big bad city of Edmonton, Alberta. Okay,
for the Stanley Cup?
For the Stanley Cup finale. Yeah. Actually, this will be yeah, maybe I'll, get in on that. I don't know. No, but I'm from Calgary, so there's like a naturally occurring rivalry between the two, But
Yeah, so
anyways.
you have to go watch the Oilers lose in the Stanley Cup. But then, you do have to band together because if they lose, they're losing to an American team. So it's kind of like I'm a Devils fan. The Rangers are in the playoffs. They're my rivalry during the season, but I'll have to root for them now because they're the only representation.
Yeah, I know. Same. It's like you got to keep it like I can support Alberta too. That's fine.
So tell us more about what you're going to do in Edmonton that's better than the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Actually, speaking of amazing mentors who've inspired us to shift and change and grow, I am going to be reconnecting with one of my mentors from almost 20 years ago who taught me, some amazing body work. They're like osteopathic techniques as craniosacral and visceral manipulation. It's actually what got me into Chinese medicine. And I haven't seen this teacher. I've been keeping an eye on her classes over the years, and it's just never lined up. And she's going to be close to me. And so I right away was like, I'm going to be there. So I'm taking 3 days of classes there, and then I'm doing a big Chinese medicine conference. And so it's going to be, what's that word? Intellectual or cerebral kind of course, but also, it's like you blend in the theory with the practice. And I am a total nerd for that. I love learning. I love, and this very esoteric stuff, Anthony, you'll really dig that too, because when we're working with the body, it's like you're feeling on a very subtle level. You're being invited into the body. Like it's a place of honor to be working on somebody like that, because you're unraveling some really deep stuff and allowing it to, like unravel so they can find movement. Like we were talking about this, Anthony. It's like move your body in ways that you normally wouldn't. Do things that you normally wouldn't. Like stretch yourself. It's like that's the way you keep young and youthful and maintain your vitality, your zest for life.
Yes. And the fact that we're electromagnetic creatures that have electromagnetic fields, and we have iron in our blood that's actually circulating for that. But I
I
think
get
it's really
goosebumps.
cool that the Chinese medicine, how you were saying that, and that's something that I heard you say yesterday when we were talking about each body part being connected to certain um, to well, I mean, as far as the meridians, and I don't know too much about it, but just being connected emotionally, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
remarkable.
Well, that is what got me into Chinese medicine. I saw this chart that this teacher had brought in, and it was every organ of the body, and it had every organ had an associated color, season, taste,
Amazing.
smell, and emotion. And I honestly was like, I'm someone who I thought that I had zero emotions, and I felt pretty good about that about myself. It's like I never cry. I don't care. I just I also wasn't like no, I was a, little emo teenager like anyone else, right? But I thought that I was doing pretty good until I realized, no, I got a lot of stored stuff in there. And so I found it fascinating that our organs could actually hold on to emotions. And then it was like, oh, once I opened up that floodgate, I think I'm still on that journey.
Wow,
So
that sounds
yeah, wow.
intense.
Okay, but it's a beautiful journey. I think it's a lifelong, this is what I think the fun of life is. It's like a practice, you know,
And
because
if we
every
need
day you
anything,
encounter something.
yeah, right.
Go ahead.
If we need anything more nowadays, is to get more in touch with our emotions. Really, truly. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much emotionless, habits going on out there in the collective, which is something that definitely needs to be addressed.
I
Yeah,
think
and the root.
emotion I think emotion is necessary to create the passion to be able to experience anything you want out of life.
Yeah, I like that, Dane. I like that.
Yeah, because it's like the root, the root of emotion or what that means if you break it down. The-
A goth person that's emo.
Yeah, this black lipstick mandatory.
And I like that you said that too, Dean, because the one of the most powerful emotions is anger, and
Anger.
Mm.
that's an emotion that we are like automatically suppressed rather than actually letting loose in a creative fashion that's healthy.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because, funny enough, and a lot of people don't realize this. Okay, so we just came from Welcome to Rockville, and at Welcome to Rockville, there's mosh pits. And most people don't understand the concept of a mosh pit and getting in there and like bumping each other around and all this. But really, what it is exactly what you said. It's an outlet for your anger or whatever's bothering you that doesn't hurt anybody. And where other people are feeling that same anger or same emotions and they're able to let it loose. And I mean, to be perfectly blunt, one of the things I said in an interview to a band is, man, when I was younger, going in the mosh pit saved somebody's face because if it weren't for that mosh pit, I'd be punching a bunch of people in the face. Like so.
Amen to that.
But that's what it's about. It's like get those emotions out there, instead of containing them, because when you contain them, they're going to explode. And that's why you have situations like we do
Definitely.
in this world, that go negative or go really bad or where people like snap. You snap because of that. You snap because you're containing everything and your body can't and your mind can't hold it in anymore. And that's what causes you to snap. But if you have a release and a way to get it out, then you never snap because you're constantly healing yourself.
Truly, and you actually add to the world because you're able to um, outlet it in a creative way that actually adds value to the world rather than just suppressing it and just they pile up and it becomes chronic and then you next thing you know you're emotionless.
Yeah. And we talked about it too with the music artists because I talked about on my show last week about music and how it's the best therapy. And it goes right along with what we're saying because these musical artists writing their songs are doing exactly what you're explaining. And writing those songs is their release and their way of getting everything that's bothering them inside, outside, and in a creative way in a positive way that actually helps other people to heal. So something that could have been a negative, you know, is actually a positive that can make positive change throughout the world with all people.
Heck yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
I love
beautiful.
it.
I
Yeah.
think at this time we should have Anthony, you know, shout out any of his socials, websites, or anything that where they can connect with him and
Yeah,
check out
definitely.
what he does.
So I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram. Those are my big three platforms that I post on pretty regularly every day. Um, at Infinite Light Wizardry. At Infinite Light Wizardry. That's where you can find me.
And what would you say the listeners and the viewers would, why should they visit your socials? Why should they visit everything you have? What will they get from it in, you know, the nutshell version? Because everybody's going to be different, so you can't say what everybody's going to get from it.
Mm-hmm. Um, this is kind of controversial for me to say this, but maybe a triggering in emotions.
Hmm.
Because sometimes that's what it takes in order to get people to take the next step.
Right.
So literally, I do make some content that actually might trigger some people's emotions, and I kind of do that on purpose
Yeah.
because sometimes that's what it takes.
I
So,
think
and
a lot of times it takes that, right?
right,
Because sometimes you just need that extreme reaction that triggers something in your head to make positive change.
stimulation, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm.
I come from a more traumatic background where we kind of were steered towards not touching the trauma and just walking on eggshells and
Hmm.
walking, everybody get along, but not having that stimulus there when it's appropriate. That's missing out in losing for everybody,
Yeah.
because there's certain people not getting information that they need by suppressing that feeling or emotion.
Well, think about relationships too. So, how many times, what is the story when people end up getting divorced? There were things building up for years and years, but nobody ever said anything. They just kind of went through the motions, kept it
Right.
locked in, and then one day, that explosion of all of that is what it creates the divorce.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then the mess is just too much to clean up.
Hmm.
If you tidy every day, if you do the make things rightly right on a consistent basis, well then you would know if you're with the right person or not with the relationship example, or you could, work and grow together. Yeah, I wanted to add one thing too with emotion. If you break it down, it's like just the energy in motion. And with from a Taoist perspective or the Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, we use the five element theory. And so, but element is just a loose word, like it's actually phases or stages. So we're always moving through the phases. We shouldn't be stuck in any one phase. And you're right, it's like anger is one of the most to be respected emotions because it has true power to recreate. It's like the destroyer that recreates, and
Mm.
then it resets boundaries. Like that's where you can really find your new boundaries, and it's associated with the element of wood. So when you talk about snapping, it's like being so rigid that you can't withstand the wind or that elemental force that comes and like really stresses you, and then you snap. It's best to be flexible and able to withstand, meet what life brings you.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. And, you know, going back to what you were saying about, tidying up a little bit all the time, best thing that I was taught when I was a kid, like my grandfather was a baker. And so my father would teach, like, when you cook or you bake, clean as you go. So by time you're done, there's nothing in the sink. And think about that, because how many times do people do like these big holiday dinners or they invite people over and they just leave everything in there and they just pile it up in the sink. And then when everybody leaves, they never want to clean up because you're looking at this big pile in the sink and it becomes so overwhelming that it seems like such a big job. Opposed to, I'm always the type that, you know, if I'm going to cook, if I'm going to bake, I do it as I go. And literally, the only thing I have to clean when I'm done is the plate I had to eat on.
Yeah.
And it's such a great feeling.
I think your grandfather went to the same school as my grandma because she taught me that rule too.
Right?
Clean up as you go along. There's nothing left. You can just
I think
enjoy
you
your
both have
meal.
Italian. You guys both have Italian roots, hey?
That's funny.
Or,
There
yeah.
you go.
It's an Italian thing.
It must be. Yeah.
So-
Anything else, Anthony? I mean, this has been such a great
Well, I mean, the big
conversation.
thing
You're so wise here.
The big thing about, I appreciate that. So are you. I appreciate that. The big thing to me about crucial conversations, like having those conversations, is able to, relieve things, relieve stress, and touch on things that are really important that need to be touched on. So rather than just suppressing it, and it's not good for anyone when anything's suppressed. I mean, it might be
No.
good for somebody as far as them remaining silent, but it doesn't do any good.
Yeah, maybe there's an appropriate time to have to have it be outletted. But yeah, repressed anger does turn into depression as well. So there's something a
Yes.
little bit there to be to explore. And just on that note, if anyone's listening that feels like they've got the biggest pile of dishes on their counter and they can't they don't even know where to start, or they don't know how to clean up. Just it is possible to have a sparkly clean countertop, just do the work, reach out, and reach out to any one of us can support you through that in our work and or
And
someone
use
that you
organic
know.
dish soap.
Yeah, there you
There
go.
you-
Yeah.
And speaking of reaching out, Nicole, why don't you tell everybody how they can reach out to you, when they can watch the show every week, how they can catch the podcast, all that good stuff.
Right. Thanks, Dean. The co-host extraordinaire here. Okay, you can find us live on w4wn.com every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can catch the replays on any podcast streaming platform that you use. On the YouTube, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Language of Healing, and Tuesdays 2 p.m. live. Bring us some questions, pop in the chat, say hello. If you have any special requests or something that you're interested in hearing about, I would love to hear that and bring that to the table. Yeah, thank you for our wonderful co-hosts, Dean, and our amazing guest, Anthony. It was so
Yes, thank you
wonderful
for
to have
having
you
me.
on.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for having such an awesome platform. I love the name, and I love the foundational place to share all this information. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for helping all the people that you do, because in the world we're living right now that is such low energy, we need more people like you so that we can create positive change throughout the world and we can all just love each other and live life for ourselves.
Definitely.
Mhm. Yeah. And stay tuned. I know, Anthony, you're working on a book, and which is also, we talked about that, and I think your story is amazing and will bring lots of light and wizardry to people for an infinite amount of time.
Yes.
Yes, like our legends, like Paramhansa, Yogananda, and where we can be in other realms and here, and that we can
And
save
also
that
look forward to
conversation for another
seeing
time.
your book too.
Thank you. Yeah. Stay tuned. All right. This is so sad. We have to go. We'll tune in next week. Anthony, thanks again so much. You're really
Thank you, guys.
Thank
cherished
you.
to be here. Thank you, Kate Michaels. And to all you listeners, we will see you next time on The Language of Healing.
Wow, what a show today. And the journey does not stop here. Come travel the world with Nicole every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time as together we become more fluent in the language of healing on W4WN Radio and Talk4 TV. See you next week.